My name is Jordan, and I'm going to be talking about community currencies because I'm currently involved in a Village Vancouver project to launch community currencies in Vancouver, Greater Vancouver area, starting with Dunbar. And my interest in community currencies started about 5 years ago when I was studying economics, and I realized that money was something that was very little understood and that got very little attention, despite the fact that it's so pervasive, ancient, and influential over our lives. And so I found out about community currencies, and I was fascinated by the idea that money didn't have to work the way it currently does. It could be changed, and there are lots of communities doing it right now. So I started, I chose to write about them as the topic of my master's thesis, and that really got me a lot more information on different models that were working all over the world with different degrees of success, but many of them were working with a lot of success. And I also came to realize that there were a lot of fundamental flaws with the way conventional money works, that community currency can help to address, while at the same time building a stronger, more resilient community and local economy. So I'm happy to be putting that into practice today by spearheading this movement to bring community currency to Vancouver. So I'm just going to go into a little bit what a community currency is. As the name implies, it's a type of money that's used only by a particular community. And that could be a geographically defined community, or it could be a community of shared interest. It's very open to interpretation. Usually it's complementary to the conventional currency, which means you're using them.
Speakers, go! 8 minutes!
So that means you're using this currency at the same time as the conventional money, and that's because our economy is so highly specialized and interconnected that it's difficult to completely have your own currency within your own little community and only use that. And there are currently hundreds of examples of community currencies around the world, if not thousands if you include barter networks and things like that. So why would a community want its own currency? There are many different reasons, both economic and social. I think one of the key reasons is that a community that can control its own money supply, at least partially, is a much stronger community that's able to resist some of the macroeconomic forces that are beyond its control, and that can really impact the local economy. And there's a story of an island called Guernsey in the English Channel that really illustrates this concept very well, I think. It was a trading island. It's always been, because it's between England and France. And during the Napoleonic Wars, it really took a hit because there was no trading going on. There was an embargo against Britain, and warfare just basically kicked their economy down. And even after the war ended, they found themselves in chronic lack of cash. They had high unemployment, but they were in need of infrastructure. And one of the key pieces of infrastructure they needed was a new market house where people could trade their wares. And they didn't have the money to produce it, but somebody realized that they had actually everything that they needed to produce it except for the money. They had unemployed people, that knew how to build stuff, and they had building materials, and so somebody decided, like, well, why don't we make our own money? I mean, if this paper is the only thing keeping it from happening, let's make paper. So they did, the Guernsey pound, and that enabled them to build this market house. And they ended up using it for 20 years, and it enabled a lot of projects. They built roads with it, they built schools in every parish, and it only ended in 1836 when some banks that established themselves on the island were upset that their kind of monopoly over creating money on that island was being infringed upon, and so they sued successfully in the British courts to have the money stopped, and the money was converted into debt held by the bank that the government had to pay interest on. So that stopped that experiment. But I think that a lot of communities are actually very similar to Guernsey. They find themselves in a similar situation where there are local needs and there are local resources that could be used to fulfill those needs. But the money isn't doing its job to link those things together. So what is conventional money actually linking together then, if not these local needs and resources? In order to answer that question, the community currency pioneer and activist Michael Linton calls on us to recognize the three fundamental characteristics of conventional money, which are what it does, what it is, and where it comes from. And he says what it does is it moves. Like, something becomes money when it moves, and something like the Canadian dollar it moves everywhere and anywhere. Like, anybody in Canada and a lot of people abroad will accept Canadian dollar. What it is scarce. That's what gives it its value, so that it will move anywhere. And in order to keep it scarce, where it comes from is them. That is to say, it's a central authority that's making all the decisions. Their job is to create the money, keep it scarce. So the consequence for community of these characteristics of money is that when you spend money in your community, it tends to diffuse outwards. It has no attachment to the community whatsoever, because it's acceptable anywhere in Canada. So it tends to flow towards wherever goods can be had the cheapest. And this has given rise to patterns of trade that have had some beneficial effects. It's made some things more affordable for greater numbers of people. It's brought a lot of variety to us. But it has this dark side of having divorced ourselves as consumers from the negative externalities of production of a lot of these goods that we consume. Money tends to flow to places where there's exploitative working conditions, environmental degradation, social irresponsibility, exploitative terms of trade, and it's really that's just the way it works because it can it can go to those places, and things are determined in monetary terms. So communities actually find themselves really embroiled in these very same negative negative flows of money and goods. They need to constantly replenish this leaky bucket of money in the community, and the way to do so is to participate in some of those negative patterns, either exploiting their own workers, exploiting their own environment, locking people oftentimes into jobs and careers that they really don't care about, don't like, and that are basically producing things that they don't need, and don't care about. So that's basically causing our true gifts to languish unused in a lot of cases. And where community money comes in is it creates a money that goes round and round in a circle in the community. So when the money is spent, the person that accepts it needs to pass it on back into the circle, so it's more likely to come back to you. As it's moving around the community, it's finding ways to connect these resources with local needs, and in doing so, it also brings the community together. You start to engage with people around you as producers of these things that you need as well, and raises a lot of awareness about the capacity of the community to produce so much of what it needs. So just to quickly wrap up, I want to let you know that I am working on a project with Village Vancouver to bring community currencies to Vancouver, one neighborhood at a time. We're starting with Dunbar, and this is part of a movement called Community Way, which started in the Comox Valley back in 2009. There is a Community Way currency operating there right now. There's one that just launched in the Kootenays, in several communities there at the same time. And this is a model of business-backed community currency, which I don't have time to get into exactly the mechanics of how that works, perhaps later on. But if anybody is interested in more, you can check out our website, www.dunbardollar.com. And you can also contact me at info@dunbardollar.com if you want more information, or if you're interested in participating